Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for the Bad Batch Episode 7 Battle Scars. So this episode was definitely an interesting one. It was finally the episode we got with Wrecker, and I always wondered, what was it going to be like? Is it going to be that he turns and they have to take him down? Is he going to, end up killing someone else and then, manage to escape? Is it going to be, exactly what we got, which was he goes crazy, but then they manage to just, perfect nick of time. It's like, just when he's fully going crazy, that's when they found the solution already, and that's what we get. It was still entertaining. I figured that nothing was gonna happen. I wasn't 100% sure with Tech. I'll be honest. I was like, typically the first person that gets attacked isn't really killed most often, but I was also like, if anybody was gonna go, it was gonna be Tech. Like, obviously we know Rex lives. I've said it a million times. Like, if they all die off, the only two characters that are for sure safe are Hunter and Omega. And I was like, I just kind of hope Echo, because he's been in the Clone Wars. We know him. So going through, I was like, I think he'll be fine. But Tech was like the only person I was really worried that something might actually happen. But it was still a great moment. I love what they did. If you're wondering, why in the world do I have Jedi Fallen Order here? That's because of the planet they were on. Braca was actually made for this planet, or made for this game. So that planet did not exist until, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, this came out last year. So that was actually really cool. Like, as soon as they mentioned it, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's, from Fallen Order. So I thought that was actually pretty cool that they referenced that. It definitely has a place. I know a lot of people are kind of annoyed when it comes to characters that kind of pop up. For instance, the last episode was Trace and Rafa, which they do confirm that they were actually talking to Rex. It was just supposed to be like this mysterious thing. Like, it definitely made it seem ominous. And I guess if you didn't watch the trailer, it was a cool kind of twist reveal where it's like, oh, that's who they were talking to. But for me, it was like, I saw the trailer and they showed that Rex was in this show, so it was just like, I knew he was going to be in here, so I was kind of just waiting for him. So when he showed up, I was just like, cool, Rex is in it. And then it was like, oh, okay. It was like, oh, it's them. Like, it was kind of weird that they had that as a cliffhanger, but they made it where if you watched it, if you bother to keep up with it and watch the trailers, it was already shown. Like, this episode was the one that was in the trailer. So I was like, they shouldn't have shown that then, if they were trying to make it like this mysterious thing where it was like, oh, it could be evil, that they could be working with someone else, or they could be good, or they seem good, but they could have also been lying and they could actually still be the bad guys. So kind of weird. It didn't do much as far as like this epic reveal. I was just like, oh, Rex is in there. Like, oh, it's, even when I first saw him, I was like, obviously, that's going to be Rex. So I thought it was cool that he was in it, but it just makes it kind of weird, that ending cliffhanger. I was like, oh, I was kind of hyping it up, like, they made it seem evil, but it was like, it could just be Rex. I mentioned the Jedi robe thing, and he did have like, he looked huge, by the way, unless I'm crazy. He looked huge with that on, and I know he has, and I guess it was because of his armor, because he has the, I forgot. I think he's got a pauldron, and I'm like, I guess that's why he looks so big. But when he had the cloak on, like, he looked as big as Wrecker, and I'm like, why does he look so bulky in this thing? And I think it was honestly because the thing was like sticking out, so it made him look extra wide, because it's just like one form with the cloak. And I was just like, why is the cloak look so big? But I think it was because he still had the pauldron on, if I'm not mistaken. But even if he didn't, either way, they made him look huge, and so it seems weird that he would have had it on. And I think they show him where he doesn't at one point, or maybe he did the whole time, but I was like, he looks huge. That's really weird. But I thought it was great. It was like, okay, the scene where he finds out that they didn't have their chips removed, great little scene where it was just like, oh, like, what's going on over here? And he was like, oh, he's been having his headaches. And they just flat out tell him, like, Tech is just like, yeah, he's been having headaches and stuff, the inhibitor chips and all that. And it's like, oh, hey, don't worry, ours are defective because of our variations. It's like, so they're not removed. And he's having these crazy headaches and all this other crap, right? So, that doesn't really work for me. I'm not trying to bury you guys, but I will kill you if I need to. Like, it's too much of a risk. So I thought that was really well done. I like the way that little scene was handled. It's like, okay, we don't want to have a fight, of course. What do you suggest? So of course they end up going to Braca, which I thought was really cool. I was like, oh, that's a cool way to do it, where they have to go and find old, I guess, well, I was gonna say old Imperial ships, but technically they were Republic ships. So they go to this giant graveyard, and it was really cool. We had a little moment with the monsters. It reminds me of the monster from A New Hope, where it's, a little underwater deal. And it kind of reminded me, visually, it reminded me of a Sarlacc, but I don't think that's what it is, because Sarlaccs are huge. That might be a Sarlacc, because there technically is a Sarlacc in Jedi Fallen Order. So I guess technically they don't have to be in the sand. They can kind of just exist in all sorts of different, planets and stuff. So maybe that was technically a Sarlacc. I'm not sure. Because originally they don't have, like, the giant weird, like, cone mouth thing. That was a special edition addition. So originally it's just a hole with teeth, and so it kind of works. I don't know. Maybe that was actually the Starlight because I know there is one in Jedi Fallen Order. So I guess technically that's what that was. That just reminded me because I was like, I don't think Starlights can exist in water, but that was a Starlight in the game. So I guess it was. I guess it was. Either way, cool little moment. And then of course they go through and it's like, all right, we need to do this. They have the headache going. They do the classic, the noise, all the sound effects and voices are being drowned out, and you just see like, oh man, it's about to happen. And just as Tech is about to like put the thing back on him, he just grabs his hand, and I was like, here we go. And it was a great scene. I love the way it happened. He throws him up against the wall. He's about to start taking everybody down. He takes out Rex and Echo because Rex is trying to get him. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's insanely loud out there. When Rex put that first blaster on him and he backhanded it, he hit it so hard it flew through the window, and I was like, or technically I guess it was a light, but it just like vanished. I was like, dang, it just made it seem more impactful that he hit it, and it didn't just like hit a wall so it was away and then he punched him or something. He hit it and it was just like psh, like it's gone forever, and I was just like, dang, he backhanded that thing out of his hand so hard it just vanished. It was just gone forever. So I like the little scene, and of course everybody's able to kind of get him out. They leave Omega and Tech in the room, and so he ends up taking out Rex with Echo, and so then it's Hunter. He's about to kill him, and then Omega kind of shoots near him, and it's like, don't do this. And so of course we have our cool little chase sequence. They have the little creatures. I have no idea what they're called, but all those creatures are all over Jedi Fallen Order. If you have not played that game, they're all over the effing place. Like, they even reference it. Like, they have, the classic video game thing. If you haven't played games lately, this is, like, the new big thing. But they have these little shimmy sections where you go through, like, these narrow spaces, and a couple of them, like, run on the pipes, and the character, Cal, he mentions, like, oh, it's the things, whatever they're actually called. So they had, like, some of the baby ones there, but those things are all throughout the game. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they threw those in there, because I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, of course, but I do believe those were specifically made for the game, just like the planet was, even though they show up on different planets. But I'm pretty sure pretty much everything in that game, I believe, was made for that game, planet-wise, except for, like, 2 planets. I know one for sure was already there, and then I think there's another one, like, at the end of the game, that location, I think, is already within the universe as well. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was a really good episode. I liked the little action segment. They solved the problem, and of course they don't end up actually killing anybody off. And, Rex talks to whoever he ends up talking to, and Hunter sees him and it's like, oh, I figured you weren't out of the fight. It's like, all right, we could use your help, but, he understood the new dynamic of the team. So he's like, hey, tell me where you guys end up landing. And he kind of walks off into the smoke. And of course, Hunter gives him the nod like, hey, if you need us, you know how to find us. So that's kind of a hint. I think we will get to see him. I'm curious if we'll see Ahsoka. That's like the main thing I'm curious about. Like, will we actually get to see Ahsoka come back as well? Or will they kind of just keep it to only Rex? But I'm curious. I'm curious, kind of like in-game stuff with this season or a series, because I still don't know if they're doing multiple seasons of this. But either way, kind of going forward, I'm very curious how this is going to play out. Like, some of the, like, big antagonistic moments. I'm assuming, Crosshair, we haven't gotten anything on, the new batch of Stormtroopers. They've probably added more people at this point. So by the time we see them again, I think we'll see more than just the 3 people that were left alive after that mission. But I think they're slowly building up the Stormtroopers, and then when we go back to that storyline, we'll see that they have, maybe like a couple dozen people by now. So I think that's kind of what they're going to end up building towards. Excuse me. But that hint was definitely like, okay, if you need us, call us. So Rex is going to call them at some point, or maybe they'll find some way to get in touch with him, which I don't really see happening because they wouldn't know where he's at. But once he takes off and kind of vanishes off into the mist to go back into, Ahsoka territory, I guess, we see that the Junker people that they were hiding from originally end up spotting him, which of course, is just terrible luck, I guess. And it's just like, oh, look at that. They don't see Rex, so he takes off, and then it's only Hunter, and it's like, all right, we got people here. They're in they call it the Jedi Cruiser, which I thought was actually kind of cool. And then it was like, all right, alert the Empire. And that's where we cut. And I was like, okay, I'm excited for that, because odds are, if they do that, and they're probably going to be like, hey, it's this person, they probably won't know exactly what's going on, but they're going to, in some way, shape, or form, I think they're going to realize, like, oh, these are clones, and these are, like, the Empire is going to be like, oh, it's these people. Like, once they describe how they look, they're probably going to know who they're dealing with, and then we might see Crosshair go out with his Stormtroopers, and that should be fun. So I'm excited for next week. I would assume that next week's episode has to pick up right where this one leaves off, and this one even starts cool. They start right at the end of the some random mission where they see this creature. So overall, I like the episode. I like the way it was handled. It was done pretty much how I expected. I figured if they were going to do anything, it was going to be this way where we'd get the really tense moment, but they'd ultimately overcome it and there would be no casualties. And I'm totally fine with that. Especially this early on, it would have been like, dang, they killed somebody in like episode 7 when we still got like 15 more to go. And I feel like I always say 15, no matter how many more episodes we get. I always forget how many are in this season, but I think, it's like close to 20 episodes. So we probably at least like 10 more. But I like the episode for sure. I thought the action was good. I like that they have officially gotten past that. I think that's a good point because I was only considering, what's going to happen with Wrecker. I didn't think there was anything going on with the other characters, although that would have been a really great twist if they had done that where it was like, they were teasing the Wrecker thing and then, it ends up being like tech or something. I think that would have been a really cool twist. But ultimately, I like the way it was handled. And also it makes the most sense to just stick with the obvious choice because he's the strongest person. He's the hardest person to take out when everyone's right around him. It's like anybody else is like, okay, well, you have Wrecker right there. He'd do a solid punch. You're on the ground. So when it's Wrecker, like, even though it's the obvious choice, it's still the most logical choice because otherwise you would have to split the other characters up. And they could have done that, but I think it makes sense to kind of streamline the story and just keep it going to the next thing. So I was fine with it. I like the way it was handled. I'm very excited for this whole Empire element and seeing if they end up fighting on this planet. I think that'll be super cool. Honestly, that's what I really want from this episode. Even though I think by the time the Empire gets there, they would escape, so they'll just end up chasing them to somewhere else. I would honestly love to see them have to do like a crazy full-scale battle in a graveyard where they have to go like from ship to ship and deal with the Snorlax and everything. I think that'll be amazing. I don't know if we should expect that, but I would assume the next episode, if they do get off the planet, the next episode has to kind of take up soon, very soon after the ending of this one. But I assume they're gonna get to Baraka before they're able to kind of get off planet. So that's what I'm hoping because I think that'll be an amazing destination for just a crazy fight scene where they have to go through, like I said, ship to ship and maybe even turn some of the ships on and kind of like blow up other ships and self-detonate things. There's so many like great action possibilities that they could use when you just have a nearly infinite amount of starships that can just be booted back up. They could do so many things with that, and I'm really hoping that that's what we get. I'd love to see that last. That could be like 3 episodes, honestly, where it's just like absolute chaos, and they just fight and fight until they eventually take out whatever swarm ends up coming their way. But I imagine they'll probably end up dealing with it within the next episode. They haven't done anything like super crazy yet, where it's like, oh, this has to keep going, like a to be continued thing. But I'd like to see it. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't mind it if we got like 2, even 3 episodes where it was all on this planet and it was just absolute madness. Like maybe someone could die. They can do it. Like it could definitely work. I doubt it, but just being hopeful. Like I would love to see some like real intense action drama and kind of just see how they handle things. But either way, I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode. And of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, at least favorite parts about it. What do you think of them, making the galaxy just a little bit smaller? I know some people really hate that. I'm curious if those people are bothered, considering it's a planet and not specifically like, oh, these characters. And I think we all knew Rex was going to come into it. And especially considering the connection that Rafa and Trace had with Ahsoka, I don't think those people would be bothered with Rex coming in because that's almost like the next logical step. It's like, okay, well, they were attached to Ahsoka. If she trusts them, then they would eventually know about Rex, which we find out is exactly the case. So I think that is almost just basic logic at that point. But I am curious what people think about them kind of introducing the planet, even though it makes perfect sense. I mean, you could say that it doesn't really make the galaxy smaller because it's not really a person, like they're leaving to go to a different planet. But I would love to know what people think about that. I thought it was cool. It also, like I said, makes a ton of sense because it's really hard to get that specific equipment when you're trying to be off the grid. So I was like, oh, that's actually a genius way to do it. You just go to the ship graveyard. Like it's simple and it's genius. So it makes perfect sense to me. I like how they handled it. Like I said, definitely looking forward to the action, but also want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.